Welcome, Jet fans, to another episode of the Jets Life podcast. Today we'll go through the Jets schedule, which was released this past Wednesday. Before we get started, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to my channel. It helps me grow, and your support's highly appreciated. So we'll start off here. Jet schedule released. Few things I want to talk about, touch upon before we get moving. The primetime games. The NFL is obviously kind of going with the rerun of what happened last year, try and get the Jets on TV as much as possible. Um, you know, that Monday Night Football game, as terrible as it was, the the viewings were there. The NFL got what it wanted. There were plenty of eyes on there, as there is for basically any NFL game. But that Monday Night Football game had a special feel to it. Every Everything surrounding that game showed like what the NFL was really looking for when they put the Jets as like a primetime event on their primetime schedule. Nonetheless, didn't work out. We had a lot of primetime games, a lot of seeing Zach Wilson, a lot of seeing this team struggle to really do anything on offense. But here we are in year two of Aaron Rodgers. The Jets have refortified this offensive line, and we would expect and hope that Aaron Rodgers could stay upright, leading to much more success this coming season. So, with that, I'm going to go through the Jets schedule here a little bit. I like to take the schedule and break it into like multiple batches here, like go into fourth, like basically separate into four different quarters, like we would in a game, just breaking the schedule down that way. So the first batch of games, the first four games that we kind of go through are opening up against the 49ers, which I just mentioned. The difficulty to start this season isn't so much the opponents, it's going to be with the 49ers excluded, obviously. Obviously, the 49ers are a tough opponent. Um, and really, any opponent can pop up. I just don't want to make it seem like we have a bunch of easy games on our schedule because that's not the case. As we saw the last couple of years, I think both seasons we said, oh man, if we get through this first however many group of games with a 500 record or whatever have you, then going into the latter part of the season, we should be able to handle business. Unfortunately, didn't work out for us in either situation. And in fact, a couple years ago, we got through that opening batch of games with an astounding record, and then failed down the stretch. I think we were 7-3, and then we ended up going losing 7-4, and then ended up closing out the season on a 6 game losing streak. Well known, well documented. So as I said, I like to break the schedule down into fourths. So we go into the opening slate, and this is going to be a Monday football game followed by a Sunday game followed by a Thursday game. So the 3 games in 10 days followed by a mini bye. And those opponents, obviously, we open up on Monday Night Football against the 49ers. Um, I think if there's a time for you to play an opponent of the 49ers caliber, the the best time to play them is early on before they start catching fire later on in the season. But with that being said, going to San Francisco to open up the season probably won't be the most beneficial situation for the Jets. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. I think this team is going to be in every single one of these games. I don't think we'll see this team kind of get beat down like we did multiple times last season, and a few times the year before that. This is a situation where I think the Jets do make it a fun game, a fun Monday Night Football game. May not end with Jeff fans in jubilation like the last Monday Night Football game last year, um, but I do think it'll be one of those building block type of situation where you went in, you played a team that was in the Super Bowl the year before, you put up a fight. Let's see what we can do for through the rest of the season when the 49ers really probably the toughest opponent on the Jets schedule, and we open up the schedule with them on our calendar. So, big game opening up. I think I'll take the loss here in this situation. I just want to see this team put up a big fight, which I think they will. Um, Proceeding on to week two, a game that I'm very interested in. I'm actually going to be making the trip up here to Tennessee against Titans, and I believe this is going to be a win. Tennessee is a team that I think that you know they're obviously transitioning. New quarterback, new coach, second year quarterback, and Will Levis. They have added some things to the offense. They've also lost basically the identity of their offense in Derrick Henry. So definitely a team that needs to figure out who they are. And when you are a team like that, that's trying to figure out who you are on offense, it's probably not the best situation to play against a defense that has been a top 10 unit over the past couple of years. So I do have the Jets getting a win in week two, evening their record to 1-1 as we proceed to Thursday Night Football against the Patriots. Very similar situation. Patriots third game of the year. Um, Last season, obviously, didn't have Aaron Rodgers, did have Zach Wilson, and we lost. This time around, I do think we handle business. Patriots are another team that's in transition. First year quarterback, first year head coach. Really nothing exciting really to speak of on offense. I know they've added a couple players, um, but not a team that I think is ready for potentially what could be involved in a fight against the Jets defense. I do have the Jets taking this game as well, followed by the Broncos. Awesome that we're not going to what I call the House of Horrors, not so much because of having difficulties getting out of their venue with a win, but getting out of that venue healthy has been a problem the last 2 years, specifically for Elijah Vera Tucker. 2 years ago, we did lose Brees Hall, so a lot of concerns with going to Denver, but we have him at home this time around, and I think the Jets pull out this win to improve their record to 3-1 throughout the first batch of games, and then we proceed even going further into that next group of games. I think this is probably one of the more interesting stretches for the Jets. Going up against some good opponents, also going up against another rookie quarterback. The NFL did some favors here with the Jets going up against rookie quarterbacks 3 weeks in a row potentially, depending on if the Broncos start Bo Nix. Um, I would think that'd be the case. I don't know that would just be interesting if it was Zach Wilson versus the Jets, but nonetheless against the Vikings, and it could also actually be another former Jet quarterback versus us because you got Sam Darnold there. But I think that the Vikings wanted JJ McCarthy. I think by at least by the by midseason he'll be starting. So maybe it's a situation where depending on how their season starts, he could start eventually for the Vikings. But regardless of the starter, I think the Jets are a team that's a little bit ahead. The Vikings, I mean, in a talent perspective, I think the Jets do have the ability to kind of fight with this team. It is a London game. I know it's technically listed as a road game, but the Jets have a pretty big following in the UK. So hoping this eventually turns into a W for the Jets. Jets haven't had the best of luck with London. I know we lost to Atlanta a few years ago in Salah's first year. I think that was our last trip there. Uh, um, so it'd be nice to kind of leave with a win. And in that game, I do think the Jets come away with a win. I think they end up splitting the season series with the Bills. I know I'm giving away kind of my picks in the later part of the season, but I think it's a situation where we split with the Bills. We've done it the past few years. Um, I think we do it again here. Bills are a team that's transitioning in the opposite direction of some of these other teams. I think there's a lot of holes on offense now. Obviously, they still have the quarterback, and when you have the quarterback, it helps hide some of those holes. But they've lost Stephon Diggs. They're just really kind of a team that doesn't seem like they're losing. They're gaining on offense. Their defense is taking a lot of hits late in the season last year. Had a lot of injuries that kind of derailed their season a little, derailed their potential a little bit. Obviously, they end up winning the division, but those injuries obviously played a toll eventually to what led up to an eventual defeat in the playoffs against the Chiefs. But I do think the Jets split with the Bills. I think when you compare the rosters, you can say what you want. The Bills have obviously they've had the edge at quarterback in the past couple years when we played against them, but in this season, it's not so much the case anymore. I think the Jets kind of have can at least meet the potential of Josh Allen, if not exceed it with Aaron Rodgers, depending on what Aaron Rodgers is obviously coming back from his Achilles injury. But I think there's a situation where you look at the Jets and you compare all these games that we're going through and running down the line, and they do have the superior roster. I think in many cases that's going to prevail in a lot of situations. Because if not, we have major problems that we'll get into. Uh, that's a conversation for another podcast. So yeah, win against the Vikings, win against the Bills, then at Steelers. Steelers are a team that never goes away. When you look at this, I mean, it'd be beautiful to put wins everywhere, down the chalk and say we're gonna win every single game. But I kind of look at like again each of these four batches of games and say how many games do I think they're gonna lose in this 4 game stretch. Um, in a lot of situations, that number isn't high. And in this situation, I say, okay, can we really go 4-0 over the stretch? We have the Patriots the following week after the Steelers. I think we win that game. And I just think there's going to be a hiccup somewhere in each of these batches. It happens all the time. Um, would I be thrilled with a 4-0 slate over this period? I would. And if there is like a section of the schedule where I think it's possible, I would think it'd be in this section here. But I'm going to chalk up a loss here to the Steelers, giving us a 6-2 record as we get through the first 8 weeks of the season. Then this next group of games, again, I look at these in batches and say, okay, how many games do I think they're going to lose? When you look at the Texans, you look at the Cardinals, you look at the Colts, Seahawks, um, situation where I definitely can see a loss here to the Texans, and then followed by wins against teams that we are. Um, they do have Kyler Murray back this year, so maybe it's a different team that we haven't really kind of seen. They have upgraded the offense, obviously. They have now Marvin Harrison Jr. at wide receiver. Let's see how that kind of builds up a little bit, and this will be later on the season. They would have had already adapted their chemistry, and that would be an interesting little competition to see on that side of the ball. Would be Marvin Harrison versus Sauce Gardner. Definitely, um, definitely an opportunity for just a fun little game within the game type of situation. So yeah, lost to the Texans, Cardinals W. Then we go up against the Colts again, a team that I view as just us being superior over. Anthony Richardson coming back from his multiple injuries last season. This will be kind of like his true like kind of rookie year because I mean hoping that he stays healthy because that guy was really fun to watch when he was down at Florida. Would love to see how that skill set translates to the NFL. But I do think we get a win here. Colts are an interesting team. They are very talented, um, but they just I feel like and Steichen's a pretty good coach there. He did pretty well with them last year, considering the circumstances. I just think that it's a game that I could see going both ways. But I'm going to give the Jets the edge here, just from an overall talent perspective. I do think the Jets kind of pull away here, having the home crowd around them too adds a little bit of an extra edge for the Jets. So I'll go with a W there. And then Seahawks. Seahawks are an interesting team. Don't know really what's going on there. New head coach, obviously. Um, but I just don't see a situation where the Seahawks come away with a win against the Jets. Again, Jets more talented here at home. I think those factors kind of weigh in to another batting tally. So far through the first 12 games, sorry. Um, okay, I'm back. Yeah, so far through the first 12 games, the Jets going 9-3. And then this last batch of games here, at Dolphins, at Jaguars, home against the Rams, home at the Bills, home against the Dolphins. So 3 road games, 2 home games to finish off the last 5 games of the season. And in this batch, I do have the Jets going 3-2 with losses coming at the Dolphins and at the Bills. Again, I mentioned earlier I thought the Jets were going to split with the Bills. I do also believe we split with the Dolphins, getting a win in our season finale. Which again, keeping tally here, I have the Jets going 12-5 throughout the season. I just I know that you look at this roster and you can look down the entire list of games that we have and can literally kind of compare our roster to each of these teams and say we are probably better in 16 of those games of the 17. I think the one true team that you could say may have a better roster than the Jets is the 49ers. And I've seen different outlets kind of comparing the two rosters, and pegging them at different levels too. Like when you look at those like kind of power ranking type of situation, um, or roster rankings, not really a power rankings, but the Jets kind of come out on top in a couple of situations. 49ers there too. So really is kind of a awesome way to start the season against the 49ers, the two quote unquote best rosters in the NFL going head to head. And then, like I said, you kind of go down the line. You just really look at this team and say, okay, who can we look at and say, okay, they can beat us? Obviously, a lot of time between now and the start of the season, and obviously a lot of time between now and the end of the season. A lot can happen. Injuries can friggin' happen. We know that well too all too well from what happened last year. It can happen 4 snaps in. It can happen midway through the season. We saw how bad the season fell apart after the Denver game 2 years ago when we lost Brees Hall for the season and Elijah Vera Tucker basically like on the same series of snaps. Um, so your season can fall apart with injuries. I'm just hoping that the football gods praise us with a season of injury success, not injury failures like we've had far too frequently. I think last year was probably like the last laugh at us, hopefully, and they give us a season that we can actually enjoy with a roster that I believe, is one of the best in the NFL. I mean, definitely, like I said, there's plenty of debate on whether that's the 49ers or the Jets. So again, overall, successful season predicted here for the Jets. 12-5 overall record, 4-2 versus the AFC East. That's going to be critical. I think when you look at the landscape of the season, I think a 12-5 record would probably put us in a situation where we are AFC East champions. Um, a situation like this would require either the Dolphins or Bills to completely bottom out for that record to not be. Let me know how you think I did. Obviously, these schedule predictions or these record predictions are exactly that predictions. I do think the Jets come away with double-digit wins here for the first time in what feels like a very, very long time. And obviously, an AFC East championship is kind of something I would love to see for the first time in over 22 years. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel. And most importantly, let's go Jets.